Welcome to this 3.23.1 video covering the Aegis Retaliator base Gold Standard and the modularity in general of the Tally. As a reminder, the bomber just comes with the two bomber modules on the base, and you can swap them out as you wish. I found out while I was editing this and putting this together that the base that I have does not have cargo modules. The cargo modules actually do have elevators on the front and the back, and the base basically is just a filler thing that basically it does not really meant to hold cargo, but you'll see in my video while I talk about that they're pretty significant in size, and they're just spaces. They're just empty spaces to kind of fill the gap so you don't have the hole in the middle of the ship, basically. Other than that, this is spot on. You'll see a lot of the gold standard stuff for the 3.23.1 Tally PTU. And the reminder, this is the first build of 3.23.1. So you're going to see some air gaps, things without spaces without air. You're going to see a few options that don't work, like you can't log out in the crew beds, but you can log out in the captain's bed, and some other things. But in general, the Tally has never looked as good, and I think it's going to come strong into master modes. Enjoy the video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you to my local subscribers, and let's get into it. Okay, so we have the lower turret here, and then we have the upper turret up there, up these stairs. Before you get to the crew quarters, you have the upper turret. This frame that is suffocating my character is right where the upper turret is. The beds are up there as well. The captain's quarters is still here. You can note it's rather small. Its screens do not function yet. But the bed does exist. Now, the beds upstairs seem to not have all the features. Curious if... What does this one have? Just get up, it looks like. It's like, oh, there's the logout option. So the captain's quarters bed does have the logout option, as it should. The other beds upstairs did not seem to have the logout option, but they're still up the staircase right behind the single pilot seat. This window is absolutely breathtaking. This used to be a tiny little narrow window for the torps, and it probably still is. But on the cargo module, it looks like it's been included in the Tally base, at least on this test here. It's just got nearly floor-to-ceiling windows. This little peek window you can still see through into here to see what's going on status-wise. That would be very useful if your ship's being boarded, or because the crew may be coming down from here or from the pilot seat and need to see what they're walking into. Also, if some reason the cargo shifts or something or whatnot, it's interesting. These are the spindles that normally run from side to side in this, that hold two size 9 torpedoes, on each side, so 2 and 2. But instead, right now, it looks like it does not have a cargo access drop down. Instead, this is like a firmed up module that has these blocked off, and the floor is solid. It does look like there's some sort of control, like HVAC, running through the room, which is interesting. And this is also the compartment where the future dropship module will be, where there'll be seats. There may even be chassis, like a modular Atlas chassis or whatever they want to call it now, for the mech to be able to recharge and secured and stuff. Weapons to be secured for the dropship people. And they'll actually drop, at least from the concept art, they would drop out of the bomb bay doors and be placed on the ground. A true dropship. You can see this center station. This is the elevator. Now, John Crew explained this before to us, that this is the solo elevator, and it was made bigger than the original to fit the module and a player. And this side that used to have a second elevator instead has a docking hatch. And there it is. So I'm going to be carefully close that. Now, those that have some familiarity with this, although I'm at the pyro jump gate, that's why it has the crazy thing. Those who have familiarity with this ship, there used to be a hatch on the top and a hatch on the bottom, and we had many funny adventures where you accidentally opened both, especially if the pilot opened exterior, and basically you could try to get back in the ship. You'd fall through, and then gravity would grab you and then pull you down, and then you'd fall back through the ship. You'd exit the ship again, and vice versa. So having a simple sideways docking hatch that allows you to easily egress back and forth, ship to ship, and then also having the larger elevator that can hold 2 people or a person and a module makes a lot of sense. And also, this is kind of one of the points about the cargo. You're going to need to have a way to move this from in here and back here, you're going to see that in a minute, into this elevator to move it out of the ship. Or through the docking. Docking should be a lot easier because you can tractor beam, grab thing, tractor beam, throw it through here with the tractor beam, throw it through here with the tractor beam, grab more. You could even have like one person inside chucking things to here, one person standing here, grabbing, chucking, grabbing, chucking. It's like a 2-person operation. And that's probably a good idea to have 2 people on the ship, but I mean, there's always going to be people who will try to skeleton crew it. This is not supposed to be open. This is a very, 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 very test build of 3.2, 3.1, and it is what it is. Here's the old engineering station. If you remember before, it still is what it is. It looks to be updated, but it's still not doing its thing yet. It hasn't been kind of had all its little bells and whistles turned on. But you would control the engineering, like locking the doors, checking to see if where the relay's broken or something. So if you did have a second person on the ship and they weren't running a turret, they could be back here keeping an eye on things from here. And then here is the access to the rear module, which right now is a cargo module. You'll note that this module is smaller than the front module, and it also does not have such dramatic windows, which is fine. I'm not trying to be Better Homes and Gardens here, but it is worth noting that this is just less nice. Some of my original modules I gave to a good friend because they really like the Retaliator. It's kind of their ship thing. Was a crew quarter type thing. It was like a VIP stateroom, I guess you could say, that could be used by crew or something whatnot. And my server recovered, thank goodness. By the way, this is being recorded on Vulkan DLSS 66%, and it's looking pretty good. Although when I see the capture, who knows? But this is the rear module, and this is smaller than the forward one. So just keep that in your mind. Then let's go back to that one up front for just a moment, and you will see what I mean, that this is a little wider. There's a reason that this could fit 4 torpedoes in the front and only 2 in the back in the bomber configuration for the Tally bomber, and that is because this module is literally smaller in the back. And maybe for balance reasons, too, to be fair. There's also a bunch of man turrets all over this ship. I pointed out the 2 at the front. There's 2 more back here. There's turrets all over this dang ship. You can see the crew lockers here. I'm not going to go into those right now, but there's crew lockers. And there should be a rear turret back here. Yep, there it is. Now, this area does not have oxygen. Once again, this is early test server. This is the first build of 3.2, 3.1. Open PTU to all backers. See the ventilation. They describe this ship as built like a submarine, and it seems like now it's gone from a early testbed submarine to a fully developed, matured submarine, which is pretty slick. Let's see, the crew restrooms here should be over here. I accidentally hit the lights on my way in, so let me get them back on. There they are. This is the shared restrooms for the crew. One of the things people have pointed out is that the captain, it's a shame the captain can't have their own small restroom. It's private, but that is the case. You'll note that this is one of the few ships that's older style where it does not have a toilet in the shower, which is a nice touch. So you have the shower, and then you also have the toilet and the sink all separated. Not like it really matters. That's just, it matters that it has it. Hygiene in the game will be something. It's not going to be hypercritical. You can see the reinforced window. That's a nice touch on this combat vessel. That's really the bones of the Retaliator. It's an old... let's see, the server's going down again. Alright, we are back online. I'm going to go down this other hallway that also leads to the rear turret, just to show that this other hallway... What's going on down here? You'll note that there's yet another turret. These little rooms lead to turrets. And I'd be remiss not to at least go into one of these. Hopefully I won't suffocate. Note these little medical symbols all over. They are not really like a bed medical. I assume that they are meant for like little first aid kits or something. So the buttons are actually pretty slick on this. We'll note that. Turret's pretty responsive actually. Now, it's worth noting that with master modes, you would have to be in gun mode in order for the turrets to function. So remember that your pilot really has to be on the spot with that. Make sure they're familiar with that on a multi-crew vessel. Especially master modes is a little tougher. That it has that protection around the ship. Yeah, it's pretty fast. And these are stock. These little badgers. I'll state the obvious, but remote turrets tend to be a little better on the player than the manual, where you have to run all the way back there. Players in general like to hang out as a group. This is, as myself included, I've seen it time and time again, where it's a lot easier to get folks to want to crew together if they can all hang out in the same place. This new tally, unless you're hanging out in one of the modules, there's no real comfortable big place to hang out. Which is a shame, and is what it is. But the remote turrets would help with that situation, because you could have like a remote turret kiosk like you have on the on the Reclaimer, that would have them like all in like one place, on like a stand with like 4 of them. That would be probably simpler to get people interested. Let's see the performance of this thing. So you saw its top speed already out in space. It is in gun mode. You can see it's 363 though. It's holding firm there. I'm gonna let the boost build back up a little bit here. And you can note with the boost off, it drops below the red, and then it holds at a cruising speed of 200 in gun mode. There is still no pilot guns. Repeat, there is still no pilot guns. You can see it switch over to missile mode there. There's a little hint of that, but not. You can see the decoys has a considerable amount of decoys and noise. You can see it has like 98 freaking decoys and 10 noise. That's a nice amount of countermeasures to get it close to a target that it's trying to hunt. And you can see the master mode's toggles here. Now, if I switch over to quantum navigation, or any of the nav modes really, if I'm going to scan as well, of course, you'll see that the speed goes up dramatically. Let's swap over again, back to quantum mode, make it a little easier for us here to test its actual performance. So when it's not going into a bombing run, or it's trying to get in location to position itself, it has a reasonable amount of speed in a straight line, like it always has. For its size, especially at master modes, 982 is no slouch. And you can see that does not require the thrust. You can see its rotation is actually pretty decent for how large the ship is. But if I was to turn and burn or something like that, you can see it takes a moment. But once it finally gets around, it can decelerate at a reasonable clip, burning through almost all of its afterburner to do so. So it can literally reverse the thrust, like it should. Those new engine effects, they have to be new. They're beautiful. They really look good. They did a nice lighting pass. They did a nice setup on there. Some of the LOD, I would argue, inside the ship is pretty nice. The new modules should be pretty interesting, and it looks like it's already set up for them. As I noted before, there is no other modules that I could see. I'm going to show you the system lay out in a moment, but I want to also show how it handles on the docking front. Because some people are going to be using the Tally base in particular. There's quite a lot of people who got the Tally base because it was a 150 USD pickup, and you know, especially if you got it from a cheap CCU or something, and you got a loaner bomber out of it, and now that won't be the case. So you're going to want to actually use this for cargo, and there's going to be new players buying this just for cargo running, which is going to be, I think, one of the biggest uses for the modules. It's certainly not going to be VIP transport or something right out of the box. We don't even have that type of gameplay in the game yet, let alone matured enough for it to be a good gameplay loop to enjoy. And nothing like that. And dropship is a niche class. I mean, you know who you are if you enjoy dropship work, and but even then, I would argue it's situational. You know, once in a while you need that, which is good for it to be a module. Having a dropship that's a module that you can simply insert and then take it out and use it as a cargo vessel or a bomber or something is really useful. And I still think the Tally base is a great pickup. I hope it holds at its price point. Oh, because it's quite a steal. It may go up slightly. Who knows? Maybe 25 USD or something when they finally release the modules. And you don't have to buy the modules. Eventually, not right away probably, but eventually they will be in game to buy. So do bear that in mind too. Let's see if there's even any services at Pyro. So let's say I'm trying to deliver a vital cargo. You got to think, people don't want to tangle with a Tally, especially if they don't know if it's half. They don't know if it's half cargo, half bomber, if it's full bomber, if it's full cargo and such. And in order to scan it down, they'd have to get close to it. They'd have to use that equipment once that's available. It's a lot of hassle to find out if somebody's running up some maze through it or something like that. Or some widow. So I think that they will be very useful for those type of projects of like, it's not worth tangling with this thing because you don't know what it's really underneath the hood, what modules are slapped in it. Personally, I think the rear module having a pair of torps and then the front module being cargo is a great idea. That's a nice combination. So here's an example of me finally finding my hangar and being able to move towards it. Slowly starting to decelerate. Trying to get that groove. Remember, trying to treat it as like a hauler. But anyway, if you have two torps in the back, that makes a lot of people think twice. Size 9s are extremely hard to shake, and even if the threat of them can throw somebody in disorientation, to worry about dealing with you. And if you chuck one and they blow through all of their stuff to protect themselves from it, and they're gonna wrap it out. So they don't know if you have one more or you have 5 more. So especially like something like a Corsair that could easily get clipped by a torpedo. It would be very interesting to see its reaction to size 9 torps coming out of it's what it thinks might be prey. So yeah, I think a wolf in sheep's clothing is a great use case for this. You can see it when it goes into landing gear mode. It still has the VTOL chops, where it takes a lot of its secondary thrusters and kind of flips them down. Just little feet things down. It's an interesting ship, and I think this was a nice touch. It's obviously not fully in yet. I'm going to reserve judgment on exactly how good or bad the Gold Standard was until we have it fully integrated in. But I think there's a lot to be said here. That this ship finally has modularity in, and a lot of people might not be getting, a free bomber out of it, but at the same time, they're going to be getting a quality ship with a multi-role capability. And a lot of players don't have every ship in the game. A modular ship like this is going to be a serious looker if it's integrated into the game well. There's its solo elevator we talked about. The other one used to be right there. And that's how it is. You can see once again when it's in landing gear mode that the secondary thrusters duck down. and give it a nice profile and its VTOL shops all in one hit. And you can see one of the other things that I find very interesting is like things like this where the turret is low to the ground. So if a player was sitting in there pointing the guns downwards, not paying attention, they could cause you trouble when you're landing. Although those landing gears are quite tall, it sits quite tall, so it's not as bad as say on the Carrack with its bottom turret as that one could be. So that is the Retaliator right now. And while I'm leaving to go store it, I'm going to show you its layout configuration. So on the modules, they are in as basically just items that you can swap, it seems like on the fly. And in the past, a lot of people had some serious worries about modularity because there was a lot of talk by CIG about at least most, if not all, modules had to go back to a large planetary landing location in order to slap modules in and out. And that was going to be a deal breaker, especially on the Galaxy, for example. If they continue down that path, that would be very bad for that ship, because that means you can't live in Pyro with it. There's just no planetary landing locations that would be these huge locations to load in modules. Now, I understand for cap ships, but for ships that are sub-cap, and this, large class or medium class, I really don't see the point. If you look at the Retaliator, for example, this is how it looks right now with these standalones. Front base module in use 1, front rear module, rear base module in use 1. You can see these are literally just this, so I assume when you get to the other modules, they will just be there, and you can just click them, hit accept, and then they'll be loaded onto your ship. Obviously, if you have cargo or something else, you might want to get it out of there before you switch them. You can see that it has space for deliveries. It has the normal types of things for a lot of shield generators. I mean, crazy amount of shield generators that are size 2s. See all these crazy size shield generators. Double power plants, which are nice, healthy size 2s. So it's a little harder to EMP this poor thing. And you'll see those Panthers, the zillions of size 3 Panther repeaters, which you obviously can change if you wish. So it really brings up an interesting ship. This is a first look at the Aegis Retaliator set up with its Golden Standard in 3.23.1 in PTU, available to all backers to come check out. And I highly encourage everybody to do so. Thank you for checking out the video. Thank you to my local subscribers, and have a great night.